Hello friends, welcome to your favorite channel Lit Lamp. Today we will be doing the summary of the play Antony and Cleopatra by William Shakespeare. This play was published in the year 1607 and the themes of the play comprise of choices, contrasting regions, betrayal, power, transformations, guilt, blame, duty. And it is of the genre tragedy. Now, let us first get sorted with the important characters of the play so that it gets easier for us to navigate through the story. And important characters are Antony, Cleopatra, Octavius Caesar, Lepidus, Pompey, Octavia, Agrippa, Commodius, Ventius, Sacrus, etc. Now, without wasting much time, let us start with the play. Once upon a time, Roman Empire was having three rulers, Lepidus and Mark Antony. Mark Antony, while he was in Egypt, was having a life of decadence, and he was also having an affair with the queen of the Egypt, who was really beautiful, and her name was Cleopatra. Antony was lost in the love of Cleopatra, and he was not ready to come back to Rome. Antony decided to come back to Rome for two reasons. One, he lost his wife Flavia, and the other was the Pompey, who was raising an army to rebel against the triumvirate. Octavius Caesar was not at all happy with the irresponsible behavior of Mark Antony. They were also worried about the increasing strength of the Pompey, who was always looking for a chance to raise a rebel against the rule of the triumvirate. When Antony returns Rome, Caesar condemned about his neglecting behavior. Caesar complained about his irresponsible behavior as a military officer. Also disapproves about his relation with the Cleopatra. Now Lepidus, who was the third ruler among them, tries to establish peace amongst the three so that they can unitedly fight against their enemy Pompey. Now we can clearly see that Antony and Caesar's relation developed bitterness. In order to dissolve the angst against each other, it was proposed that Antony should marry Octavia, who was the sister of Caesar. This marriage would ensure Antony's loyalty for Caesar, and also this marriage would put an end of Antony's affair with Cleopatra. Now, Cleopatra, back in Egypt, when she knows that Antony had married Octavia, her rage had no limits. Now, her concern was what Octavia must look like. But when Cleopatra learns that Octavia is a plain, regular looking woman, she is more calm and relaxed. She knows that she will win back Mark Antony. On this side of the story, in Rome, the three triumvirates meets with Pompey and they dissolve their issues without going for a battle. Pompey was given the territory of Sicily and Sardinia to rule over. In return, Pompey agreed to keep peace and raise no battle against the triumvirate. Now that a settlement was made, everybody started drinking and enjoying. But in the meanwhile, one of Pompey's soldiers comes to him and informs him that they had made a plan to assassinate the triumvirate. And while all were drunken, it was the best time to assassinate them. Their death would ensure the transfer of power in the hands of Pompey. But Pompey did not agree to the plan. Now Antony and Octavia departs for Athens. When they are gone, Caesar, back here in Rome, does away with the agreement and he starts a battle with the Pompey. In the battle, he also defeats him. He also accuses Lepidus of treason. He also imprisons Lepidus and takes his all lands, wealth and other properties. When Antony gets to know about all this, he is raged with anger. Antony is also unhappy about the fact that Caesar is instigating public against him. Seeing all this, Octavia is worried. He asks Antony to maintain a peaceful relationship with Caesar. She knows that Antony and Caesar, both of them, are dear to her. She knows that if they have to fight, she would be hurt painfully. Antony decides to send Octavia back to Caesar so that she can establish peace between the two. And Antony himself flees back to Egypt to Cleopatra. When he goes to Egypt, he arranges for a large army to fight against Caesar. Caesar, on the other hand, was also ready to fight with Antony, and he starts marching towards Egypt to fight against Antony. They decides to have a fight in the sea itself. Cleopatra was also helping Antony in the fight. The involvement of Cleopatra was not acceptable to Enobarbus, and he objects her presence in the war. But Antony, being Antony, did not listen to him, and the war begins in the sea itself. Antony had to suffer a loss as the ships of the Cleopatra leaves him in the war and runs away. Antony was not happy with this behavior of Cleopatra's army, and he was angry against Cleopatra itself. But soon he forgives Cleopatra for everything. Now the battle was over, and Antony knew the consequences of losing the war. He knew that Caesar had won and he would not allow him to live in Egypt. So he sends request to Caesar to let him live in Egypt. Cleopatra also sends request to the Caesar saying that her kingdom should be passed to the rightful heir. Now Caesar was the winner. He outrightly dismisses the request of Antony, but he makes promise to Cleopatra that he would forgive her if she betrays her lover, that is Antony. Cleopatra now had a chance to restore what she had lost, and Antony was anyway a defeater. She was thinking upon the proposal of Caesar when Antony gets to know about her, starts cursing her for her treachery. He claims that love of Cleopatra was fake for him and it holds no loyalty. He curses her a lot, but after some time both of them forgives each other. After some time, we see that Enobarbus, who was a good friend to Antony, had changed his party and he merges with the Caesar's party, leaving Antony's party. Now, once again, Antony decides to fight with Caesar, and this time, unexpectedly, he wins the battle. When Antony gets to know about the treachery of Enobarbus, he thinks that it must be fault with he himself that an honorable man like Enobarbus has defected on him. He decides to send all the possession that Enobarbus had to Caesar's camp so that he can be there peacefully. Now that he had won the battle against Caesar, he had returned back to Cleopatra to celebrate his victory. When Enobarbus gets all his possessions, belongings, he realizes what he has done to his master. He realizes his disloyalty and he feels guilty about his act. The poor man, out of shame and guilt, commits suicide. Oh, battle after battle. Once again, battle is fought between Antony and Caesar, and the Egyptian ships proves disloyalty and runs away in the middle of the battle. Egyptian soldiers had done this before with Antony, and as a result, Antony lost the war against the Caesar. This time, Antony was convinced that Cleopatra had betrayed him, and he now announces to kill her. Now, Cleopatra was all scared. She hid herself in her monument and got announced that she was dead. She spread this news about her fake death in order to calm Antony. She knew that Antony would calm down when he hears about the death of the Cleopatra. And so happened. When Antony got to know about the death of Cleopatra, he took this for real. He was so grief stricken about the death of Cleopatra that he decided to join his queen in her afterlife. For this to happen, he had to die, and he decided to kill himself. He asked one of his attendants to kill him, but he refused to do so, so he kills himself. He is now carried to Cleopatra's monument. Now, when Caesar learns about the death of Antony, he decides to imprison Queen Cleopatra and display her as the proof of his mighty empire, the proof of his strength. It was unacceptable, unbearable for Cleopatra to either accept the death of Antony or to accept her defeat and her display as the strength of the empire of Caesar. So she decided to die as well. She asked her attendants to get the best clothes for herself. She would dress in the best clothes, and she also asked for several poisonous snakes who bit her and poisoned her, and she died to reunite with her lover Antony. And that is how the play ends. Thank you, friends, for holding yourself till here. For more such summaries, do check our other videos too. Keep learning, keep growing. See ya.